heart tells a story they kept. Every tear they wept, yet no regret. The weight was heavy, dragging low, but in the dark, the light would glow.
Hi guys, welcome to the review of How They Healed Season 3. And I'm your host, as usual, Lara Kudaisi Don Momo, also known as Dear Coach Lara. Let's start with episode 1. That's the interview of Joyce Daniel. So I'm tempted to ask,
Please ask.
if you knew that this might be pregnancy, why didn't you do something, this after her pills?
That might be the naivety playing there. That might have been.
And
where
how
it was
old were you
I
then?
was 20. I had just turned 20. It was 2 weeks after my 20th birthday. It was 13 days after my 20th. Because my birthday is 31st January.
Oh, okay.
This was 13th going into 14th of February.
You
Valentine.
remember the date?
Oh yeah, I'm good with dates, faces, names, and
Okay.
some kind of things. It was a Valentine's program in their fellowship, and it was the day before Valentine's Day, because Valentine's Day there'll be too many activities going on. So a lot of fellowships had their Valentine's program on the 13th, and that was that 13th. There's something about that first pregnancy that is so. I think I asked him, the person upstairs, was that her first pregnancy? Like, how dare you?
If you take out somebody else's first
Why
pregnancy,
you-
what's
I
my
didn't come here for counseling. But you see, in my practice, I also know how to lean into the way I feel. And for some reason, young lady, I just feel you should keep this way. That's how I feel. It's not about expertise. It's definitely not money. And in fact, I could do it for free because that's not where I make my money from. But I just have this feeling about you and this pregnancy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this interview, I think it's the first time ever. I've been a therapist for maybe 13 years now. And so I have learned emotional detachment. I have learned when I'm listening to a story, I can empathize with you, but I will never ever join, your emotions with you. But this was the first time ever in my life that somebody was sharing a story and I had to cry with her. Why? Because our stories were so similar. I can cry later on, or maybe on my own when I think about it, but cry in their presence and show them, let them know, because that's against my training. But the reason why I could do this was because she was telling my story. Oh my God. Oh, this episode got me emotional. In fact, let me tell you the backstory of this episode. We had shot, I think, 3 or 4 episodes before Joyce came. We had planned the episode that would be episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. We had already planned it. Okay, I remember now. We're going to use another person, Deji, actually, as episode 1. So we had shot 1, 2, 3, 4 before Joyce came. But when Joyce came, our studio shook. You know how you guys watched it and how you guys felt? That was how we felt here. And I remember that watching that during that interview, I was telling myself, this should be episode 1. But to be honest, you guys, I was so afraid. Not like I was afraid, but I was just considering my editors, and we had just had a meeting where they were saying, "Oh, coach rushes us. She doesn't need to give us enough time." So I was like, God, look at what they say I'm doing. If I not go and tell them again. And I think she came on a Thursday. Yes, I think it was on a Thursday. And we were supposed to release episode 1 Friday night, 12 a.m. So I'm like, hey, how am I going to tell these people now? Is it really worth it? Because I was feeling that emotion while we're having that conversation. Do you know what happened after? One of the production team called me outside and said, Coach, please, I'd like to see you. And I went to see him, and he said, this should be our episode. Hey! I was like, oh my God, this was what was in my mind. This was because Joyce's episode was so captivating. Let me tell you some of the things that made it captivating. First of all, she talked about how she's, I think, seventh, yes, I'm sure, seventh child out of 9 children. You would expect that somebody like that wouldn't have a lot of attention from her parents, but ours was not like that. She talked about how she was such a well-loved child. She was so outspoken. Her father was a pastor, and she was so participatory in church, in school fellowship, all of those things. And then she got pregnant. In fact, she was a leader in fellowship, which was my story also. When I got pregnant, I was a leader. I was the choir coordinator of my fellowship in school. I was in choir in the town, my state, the town, the church that I was in my state in school. I was a choir back home. So this was Joyce's story. So she said how she was a leader in fellowship, she was this, she was that, she was a pastor's child back at home. She preached the Bible, she preached Christianity, all of those things, and then she got pregnant. And I know how that could make anybody feel. She felt so bad, she judged herself, she critiqued herself, she didn't like her life, and she did what anyone would think of doing. She tried to abort the baby. And she didn't just do it. She didn't just try once, twice. She tried about 4 times. And every time she tried, there was a problem. It's either the doctor will counsel her, don't do that, my child, don't do this. I do this normally, but I don't think you should do it this time. I just feel it in my spirit that you should have this baby. She tried again, went to a native doctor. This is so funny. She went to a native doctor, and the native doctor told her that, my child, is this your first child? I'm sure if you have not watched it, go and watch it again. And the native doctor told her, don't do it. Don't do it. And I remember where she said that the native doctor, because Joyce is from Port Harcourt, she grew up in Port Harcourt, she schooled in Port Harcourt, and she said the man gave her the example of the governor of Port Harcourt at the time, governor of Rivers State, Peter Odili, and Mary Odili's wife. She said the man told her that the day when they born Peter, this was the balance she used. Nobody know say Peter will be governor. Nobody know. My child, what if you carry governor for belle? So imagine, she said she got confirmation. Another person came from town, to come and tell her, God said I'm with you. And I was like, wow. I think she stopped trying. She said she was in about 5th month. She was 5 months pregnant when she stopped trying. And eventually, she decided to have the baby. Let me tell you the part that got me crying. She talked about her dad. Her dad, of course, was disappointed at first when she told them. And then immediately, like she said about it, her dad went into a thinking mode. And then eventually just said, no. This was how Joyce was in that interview. You child of glory, get up. I remember this interview vividly because I was shaking. I was crying. She said, her father said, this is what the devil wants to use against you? That you will not. No, get up. Everybody wipe your tears. You are going to have this baby. And you will still be that. God. You know why I cried? I wish somebody had my back this way. I wish somebody encouraged me this way. One. Secondly, she talked about being in church as a choir member after having a baby. She didn't want to have the baby. She didn't want to go back to the choir. But her pastor said, come here. Come back here. Do you know that you will still be a prophetess in future? You will still be, somebody sharing your story that even me as a pastor, they will not listen to me. It is somebody like you that they will listen to. See, I cried. Because all I ever got was condemnation, was abuse. Eventually, of course, my parents came around, but that touched me deeply because I wished I had that opportunity, because that also helped her self-confidence. Joyce is more self-confident today, and anyway, so that was it. That was what made me cry. In case you were wondering why were you crying, that was it. I personalized that story and it just took me back memory lane. Even now that I'm still talking about it, I'm already feeling emotional. So in case you have not watched it, go go and watch it and tell me what you think about Joyce's episode. Now, moving on to episode 2. The title was Rejected by His King Dad.
So 2007, my mom calls me that I should come home. I was coming from school. We just started using GSMs at the time. Come home, she was really nice. My mom was very busy, so she didn't come and pick us from school or stuff like that. But come home, I'm like, what's up? And then I didn't know. I thought maybe I'd done something because I was quite a troublesome child in my senior secondary years. Then I get home, my mom passed me a newspaper. I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here. And the tabloids has carried it. My dad had died. There were so many things to break my heart. I mean, I did meet him. We did go to the palace. I did. When I was, as a child, it was slightly a part of our life.
And Deji's story, I've known Deji for about 7 years before bringing him for that interview. And I shared the story I met Deji in an Uber, when we were in Abeokuta and all of that. And so I've seen him grow from grass to grace. I've seen how well he's doing, but I didn't know his story. He had told me briefly because we're very good friends, back then, even till now. He had told me a part of the story, but I did not know it went that deep. Deji shared. Oh God. He cried also. Deji cried. At that point, I almost hugged him. I don't even know why I didn't stand up. That day, I was holding myself like this. If you watch that episode, you see me do like this. Because I could feel his pain. It was so palpable. He was so angry. Deji was so angry at someone, Yes, his dad rejected him. His dad was a king that rejected him. So, the pain of coming from a royal family, but you cannot partake or claim a royal family. It's very hurtful. And so he also was talking about an adult, I think his mom's ex, somebody that his mom had dated, that told him that he can never become anybody great except he studied professional courses like doctor, medicine rather, accounting, lawyer, all of those. And he so upset. I remember how he was like, how dare you tell, I wish I could see him and tell him that. He was so upset from that interview. And I saw how you can derail a child if you are not careful as an adult. I don't care if you don't know that child, if you just meet that child by the road or you just met that child once. Don't say things and think they are children. Some things it sticks to a child's memory for life, And because he also dropped out of school, he dropped out of school. And so that also followed him. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that he's doing well today. He's the CEO of a talent company, I think so. Yes, they're into branding and all of that. And they've done some of our own branding and transition and all of that. So I'm so, so proud of him. But that interview brought out a lot of raw emotions that he had suppressed, you get, as a child. And for me, it helped me see. I remember my daughter was in the womb that day. I remember we talked about it afterwards. And because my daughter also had not like her dad rejected her, but her dad was not in her life till, I think he just became in her life maybe last year. And my daughter is 23 now. So you can imagine. I remember I was discussing it. I saw her reaction that day. I was so conscious because she was here. She was listening. In fact, she slept up at some point. I know it was, she was trying to detach from the conversation because I know how it was. And we talked about it later. So the point here is that this episode was such a moving episode. I felt like hugging him. But I just had to comport. I felt like standing up to hold his hand. I felt like wiping his tears. But it touched me a lot. I learned that you should be careful what you say to children. As a mother, you should be there. Make sure you fight for your children, their sanity. Like his mother fought for him. You get. So that's episode 3 of Deji's interview. I hope you've watched it. If you have not, you can still go back to watch it again so that you understand or get this lesson that I'm talking about. Let's go to episode 3. That's Chiamaka episode.
Wow.
So I remember then someone nicknamed me social prefect. So I now decided to call the blog social prefect.
Who nicknamed you and where?
It was at work.
Okay.
It was at work.
Why did they call you?
because they said I was very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from my own, I was in customer
Oh,
service, but like
okay.
apart from my own department, I knew people in other departments. I was very like I was everywhere, so I was social.
Yeah.
So that's why they called me social prefect.
I remember this vividly. I'm so grateful because all these guests that I bring, at least in all this season, I usually have heard something about them, or we probably have a relationship or previous conversation, and that's what happened with Chiamaka. I knew Chiamaka online. I just knew her as social prefect. She used to organize tours for people and all of that. And I followed her. I can't remember when I started following her. She had a lot of following. She was she was featured on CNN. It's just a young, aspiring woman that already she was featured on CNN as somebody doing something extraordinary in Nigeria, in Africa. So, and I also know she was an maybe ambassador, or she had some deals, ambassadorial deals with some other companies. So she was somebody I had admired and all of that. And then one day on Instagram, Instablog took it. Instablog, in case you are not Nigerian, Instablog is a popular blog, gossip blog on Instagram in Nigeria. So that's where you hear the latest news. And I saw it where she was ranting, where they said she this is a girl that I had known as a church girl, always talking about Jesus, and then she was using the F word, she was ranting, she was like, I don't care who you are. She mentioned her husband, and this was a girl that just got married about 2 months before then. I think she was 25 at the time. So she was started ranting about her husband. You made me lose a lot of weight. I've been working out, yet you are cheating on me. Who the F are you? Blah blah. And she was saying a whole lot. And I went to her page, and I saw in the comment section, I saw people like Auntie Betty, Rabot, Tara Feladro, all of them were like, Amaka, we are at your door. Open the door. It was such a crazy, um, blowout. And I was so sad because I knew that this person, of course, as a therapist, I knew that this person was having a nervous breakdown and the rest. And I remembered a friend of mine had told me, I remember her very well, had told me that, oh, Lara, you're still trying to grow your page. You can use this. Look at this girl. Maybe she didn't do proper due diligence when she married this guy. You can use this and talk about it so that it would gain a lot of traction. It shocked me because, first of all, as somebody that has sense and has a heart, I would never do that. This is somebody's pain. You don't use people's pain to drag them. You don't use people's pain, so I would never do that. Then, secondly, at this time, I was also going through my own broken marriage. So in my head, I'm like, how am I even any better than this girl? Is it because me, I've not come on Instagram to come and be ranting? So this was the situation surrounding me and Chiamaka, sort of, you get. And I didn't do that. And about a year after, ladies and gentlemen, guess what happened on Instagram? I just saw somebody tag me, and I went to check. It was Chiamaka. When she had a nervous breakdown, she shared it on her page. When she had a nervous breakdown, she went to see a psychiatrist, and she was sharing the books that helped her recover. And my book was one of it. I remember that day, I was like, what? This is how I did. Like, Jesus. So, life is really small. Life can come full circle like this in your very before. And I remember DMing her that day that, oh my goodness, thank you for sharing this. And we started talking. And then after then, we met at, just about a few weeks after, we met at Future Awards. We talked, we hugged. And since then, I'd invited her to come for this How They Healed. Since 2020. But she kept saying, no, she's not ready until 2025. So having her come was such a blessing. And then having her share the story that led to her blowout, which was her having bipolar. Can you imagine? That was what she was having, a nervous breakdown at that particular time. So she was sharing that was why she blew up, and then she had to go to therapy and all of that. So I had to, on that set when she came, I had to tell her of this incident. She was like, what? I was saying to her, I said, Chiamaka, imagine if I had used your story, and because she would have known, she would have seen it, because I wouldn't have tagged her, but maybe hashtag. So celebrities I know this they do this where they just check the hashtag of their name. They go to see everybody that's talked about them, what people are talking about them, or somebody that knows her could have just sent it to her. And I don't even remember if she was following me, but this is just a lesson for me. I've always known anyways, but it's another lesson for you if you are watching this thing. Don't just carry camera and say, let me come and share. You don't know who it will happen to the next time. So I was sharing this with her when she was sharing her story, and we had a good laugh about that. She was like, if you had done that, of course, if they had given me your book, I would have thrown it away. So look at the relationship we have today as a result of me not doing that. And coming here to share how her dad loved her, I was so grateful. She talked about how she was a daddy's girl, she was the only girl, but her dad protected her and all of those things. And then why the marriage broke up, she shared about, no. I got a lot of lessons from Chiamaka sharing. She was talking about how she shouldn't have gotten married. She was too young. She didn't even know herself. She had not come fully into herself. She was like, when she didn't even stay too long she didn't give it her best. She didn't fight because she was just too young. She didn't even know what she wanted from life. Let alone what she wanted from marriage. And I remember sharing that day that my own personal recommendation. I know a lot of people might argue with this, and I know that there's no rule cast on stone. But I remember sharing, I'm saying it again. I recommend that anybody who wants to get married should be at least, especially a girl, should be at least 30 years old. I'm telling you, because I believe that at that 30, I know that there are still some 30 who still have self-identity issues and all of that, but at least you would have started understanding some things about yourself. So what I learned about Chiamaka was that don't get married too early. Make sure you know yourself. Now she's gone to therapy, she has healed, she's also still healing from some of these things, and she shared the lesson. And I like how she has moved on from it, bounced back, and now she's using it, to help other people. So thank you, Chiamaka. This is episode 4, review of episode 4 with Sako. Sako, his real name is Ayo Dele Okundalaye. He's my friend.
I remember at the time when I had to beg to perform in Daystar.
So why are you doing like this?
I mean, beg.
Why are you
were
putting
part
your
of
hand-
people
why are you putting
that I
your
had
hand
to,
here?
you know.
Yes, I was part of the people that had to audition
me.
Yes,
Yes.
to perform on the stage in
I'm
Daystar
so happy.
then. I was one of the singles executive of Daystar Christian Center.
And you people used me well.
Yeah, we did. We did.
But those times I learned also that it takes for you to become a professional in anything you're doing, you should have done over 10,000 hours. The Malcolm Gladwell well.
Yes.
Concept. And it's helped me.
Yes.
So for every opportunity I've gotten, it's an opportunity. I booked my flight from here to go to an event in London for free.
We've come a long way. So it was one of the things we talked about on the show. Sako, I'd known Sako. In fact, I used to use it to brag. I always hold it on his head. He always hold my car. That your car that I used to push everywhere back then on mine too. So I met Sako years ago too in church. So I was the not head, but I was part of the active youth leader, ESCO member of our church. They started Christian Center. So I was part of the singles ESCO. So what that meant was that comedians will come, MCs will come. They will try to be lobbying for talk. So that's how I met Sako. I was in power then, because I was the head of performing arts. So I was one that had the power to allow them to feature. We were not paying them. Oh God, the days of humble beginning. So that's how I met Sako. So he would come and try to befriend me. Please, I would like to feature. I'd like to share some comedy and all of those things. So I allowed him. The likes of SLK then and all of that's how I got to know them. So Sako came then, and then he started attending Daystar. We were friends. We became friends. I know his wife before they got married. After they got married, we still go to the same church and all of that. So asking him to come, I need to state here that the first day we had our first shoot, Sako was part of the guests. He came. I had detailed that we're going to have 4 episodes, but because what happens during shooting and production, people is either maybe makeup artist came late or the guest came late. So he came. He was so upset. He was upset that we gave him time, but we were not according to time. So he was like, he waited for about an hour. We were begging. Even me, I was begging him, don't share now, calm down now. He was like, I came here, I can't wait, so, but he stayed for about an hour. He even watched some of the part of the episode that we shot that day. And then he left. He told me and he promised me. I begged him, I apologized, and he promised me. He said, "No, Remy." He calls me Remy, Mawa. I'll come again, don't worry. But it's just that I don't like waiting. And so he left. And then he came back this day that he came back. I'm so grateful that he didn't wait that day. Do you know why? Because the first episode that we shot that day, we couldn't use any of no, we used only one and it wasn't good. Production wasn't good. So we had to redo everyone. So if Taco had come or waited on that day for us to film it, I would have called him again. Anyways, he came back the next time. So we had this conversation. And even though I've known him, you know, he's a comedian, he's always joking around. I didn't know this side of him. I didn't know that he grew up in a polygamous home. I didn't know that he grew up in very, 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 very humble beginnings. I didn't know that he didn't make his WAEC the first or second or third time. That shocked me. And what got me was his resilience. Even as a teenager, how do you go to a school when you don't have admission to that school? He said he kept taking lectures in LASU, you know. Then he also went to Ibadan Poly. Like, who does that? I've never ever heard of anyone doing that. And it's not just one school. Until he said he got admission in University of Ilorin. That was shocking to me because that tells me that from childhood, this is the kind of person that he has been. You know, somebody who doesn't give up, somebody who was resilient, somebody who really wanted something to do, and somebody who wanted change and created that change. I like people like that. So I was so inspired by that. Eventually, he got to school, Uni Loring, and he finished and he started emceeing at that point. And we talked about how he was. Sako is such a humble guy. Since I've known him till today, Sako is one I know who has a lot of network. He knows a lot of people, a lot of big pastors, high placed profile, high network individuals, and I have seen him nurture those relationships. I have seen him love those people, honor them. Sako will come from Canada to come and attend somebody's burial ceremony in Nigeria, in Akure. Like every time I see his status, I'll be like, how do you say, how Remy, you have to honor people. That's how to nurture relationship. It's something I've told him that he needs to teach me. Because me, it's something I'm still learning. Before I can leave my house or go to anywhere, I will first of all debate it. Should I? Can I? Whoa. Maybe I will just text them. That's how I am. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't like Owambe at all. So for me to go for Owambe or even conferences, it's a lot of work for me. But this year I've changed. I promise you people. I went for one conference last week, Saturday, and I was not speaking. I have not done that in a very long time. I know the kind of people he knows. I always, how? And these people that he knows, I know them too. We'll just be going everywhere. And there's no way you will honor people and they will not be there for you. And I've seen how these people have honored him. I've seen how it has spanned out for him in his life. I've seen how he went to speak at an event for Pastor Nathaniel Bassi in his church. And Pastor Nathaniel Bassi raised an offering for him. It's because of his honor. So he told me about that on the podcast that day, how he became somebody like that, how his first mentor was Holy Malam before he was introduced to Alibaba, and how he learned how to honor people, buy them gifts, and just serve them, willingly or for free. He also mentioned our shared mentor, Paul Kayode Joash, that he did an event for him free years ago in Ilorin when he was doing conferences. And today, Sako is well honored and loved by Piki. That's what I call him. That's my mentor. You get. So he shared with me how his marriage also, a lot of things that happened, how he allegedly fathered a child before his marriage. And his wife is somebody that they met in school. They've been in love for so long. But, he got another person pregnant only to find out days before the marriage, after a DNA test, that was not his child. I know about the story because like I said, he's my friend, go to the same church, but him sharing it on the podcast, I felt that was brave of him, because not everybody wants to talk about that part of their lives. He talked about how he has learned parenting, some of the things he went through, how he cannot repeat them with his kids, how even though he grew up in a home where his father used to beat his mom, he has learned never to touch his wife. Sako is somebody I'm very proud of. Trust me. If you watch that interview, I kept saying, I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you because I knew when Sako, started, and look at where he is today. So, ladies and gentlemen, tell me in the comment section what you loved about Sako's episode. And if you've not watched it, go and watch it now because you will learn a whole lot. It was a learning. One of the things I like about bringing my friends or people that I've known or read from afar or read about from afar is that they come and share a part of them that I never knew. And so I like the surprise or the shock factor it always gives me. I like it. I like it. I don't even like talking to them before the show or giving them prepared questions. Some of them asked for it. Sako especially. I said, I'm not giving you any. I don't like to give people prepared questions because it kind of makes them stiff. So I like to ask them impromptu questions. And so that was how the episode went. So I loved Sako's episode a lot because he's my friend, and then of course he made me laugh a lot. He didn't let me be serious. Like I would go to dwell on what he would just say, moving on. Oh, you're looking for somebody that will cry. Episode 5, and that's with my sister, my beloved sister Tosin Yemi Sonny.
My dad affirmed me a lot. If he didn't do, I think his affirmations went a long way in countering some of the negative effects of the experiences I had growing up. I think so, because my story would have been a lot worse than this. Yes. But he did a fantastic job of affirming me. My dad would say things like, if I were a young man looking for a wife, it's you are the one I will marry. In fact, from an early age, I used to say that when I grow up, I'm going to marry my daddy.
Wow.
Yes, I will kick my mommy out because why is she even here? Like, I will marry my daddy. It's my husband
So you
to
were
be.
like one of those children that would say,
yes.
my rival,
Yes,
my husband's side chick.
yes. I used to say it, and I
Such a
really,
daddy's girl.
yes. I'm such a daddy's girl.
Whoa. I'm so excited because this episode, we have been trying to make it happen for about 5-6 weeks before it eventually happened. I contacted Tosin. Tosin lives very, very close to my house, by the way. I found out not too long ago, but she couldn't make it. She was traveling, or she had sessions. It was just clashing. So eventually when she came, I was so excited. I was so excited. In fact, she had a lot of issues on this day, but she decided to come. So I was really, really honored to have her in the studio. And it was such even though I've known Tosin, I've heard her story, hearing it again, oh my goodness, it was such those stories that gave you the chill. It gave me the chill. It was so surreal, when she was sharing about she being a pastor's kid. Tosin's a pastor's child. She was such a sensitive child, and then fell into the hand of a terrible, terrible guy. I remember the first time I read about Tosin, I heard, I need to share with you the backstory. I always like to share backstories. So apparently before now, about some years ago, Tosin had entered my DM. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not the one that used to handle my DM. I have my customer service and my executive assistant. So apparently Tosin had entered my DM and requested that I facilitate in one of our boot camps. And so they had told me, and we were working on price. It didn't work. I think she wanted to offer me. I said I wanted more. I didn't know how at the time. And so it didn't work, And then I just, one day, I was going to speak at an event. And I just stumbled on YouTube and saw her story. And I was like this. It was so jaw-dropping because I'm used to being the only one, the lone voice, sharing story, dirty story. So hearing someone else, and I quickly I was so moved, I was so touched to talk to her. And I sent her a DM. Ladies and gentlemen, it was when I sent the DM, I realized that, this person has sent me DMs. Jesus. And then I scrolled up, I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know, oh my God. So of course I told her I apologized and all of those things. So we had made friends, and then she came for that show. So that's how I met Tosin. I'm just so honored. I am so excited because of what she's doing. It's not every time you see people like us that have been through pain and we can be as honest and vivid. You know how people share. We are Nigerians, we're Africans. We don't share the raw details. We lie, we cover. But Tosin is just like me in that regard. She shared the whole story, how she fell into the hands of the guy, how the guy manipulated her for years. The guy was smoking weed. He got her into smoking weed. He got her pregnant and she had to abort it. Such a very conservative pastor's daughter. It was so surreal for me. And I kept asking her, like, hey, like, how did you come out of it? How did you? And she kept saying it was just God. She would fast, she would pray until God delivered her from the hand of that guy. And I'm so grateful now because Lucy is happily married. She has a son. They are all doing well. She's so excited. She's happy. I just went for her conference, by the way, just some days ago, the Radiant Life conference. She just released a book also, the Radiant Life Soul, I think. And I'm so proud of Tosin and what she's doing. So Tosin, that episode was fantastic, 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 fantastic. If you have not watched it, go and watch it again. Tell me, a lot of people had so many good things to say because she was telling the story of a lot of girls. So yes, thank you Tosin for coming. Episode 6. That's with my friend Stephanie Obi.
My own was like protruding like this, and I was very uncomfortable around it. When I look at myself in the mirror, all I'm seeing is that big thing.
Yes.
So, but I was afraid of doing any surgery, and so I procrastinated. I was looking for different ways. They say you can drink this celery juice. Okay, let me go drink celery juice. I drank celery. I'll go.
It will grow for your head.
I will go for checkup. It's still there.
I've known Stephanie since 15. Yes, 10 years now. I've known Stephanie. We were very close in the past. You understand? We were very close. Then at some point we lost touch, and then we reconnected again. So that's Stephanie's story, me and her. And I just saw her share a story about. I'm trying to remember where we connected. I think we met at an event. I'm trying to remember now. Oh my goodness, I can't even remember. I'm trying to remember now. But I remember we met at an event where I had to introduce myself. Stephanie was like, you have changed a lot. And Stephanie, she's very, very, she's very, very outspoken. You have changed a lot. I almost didn't recognize you. Lara, what? Oh, yes, I remember. It was at DDK's event in February. She was like, Lara, oh my God, I couldn't have recognized you. You wouldn't know how Stephanie talks. And we connected, we hugged and all of that. So, she followed me, and then when I saw her share a post on Instagram talking about thanking God because 1 year ago on that day, she had done a fibroid surgery, and she was thanking God for sparing her life, for healing. I was like, what? Also, you guys should know Stephanie is she's a business coach. She's a visionary. So she really talks about things like that. So I was so moved that she was brave enough to share that. And I sent her a DM that, Stephanie, I would like to interview you about this issue, if you don't mind. Oh my goodness, I'm laughing. Let me tell you why I'm laughing. Because Stephanie said in the end, I think on WhatsApp, she's like, okay, I'll come. What is it about? What do you want me to come and share? That's how fast she talks. Then she was like, Lara, no. I'm not going to come and share something personal. I'm going to share as per my business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I didn't particularly like it, but I was like, God will touch her heart. God will touch her heart. She will share personal. Anyone she gives me, I don't mind. But she will share the personal side. And I remember one of those days when I was just meditating. I'm like, God, touch Stephanie's heart. Let her come and share, what I really want her to share. Do you know the funniest thing? Stephanie came. I said, Lara, I don't know who you have been talking to. I don't know. Because God told me to share. I just started laughing. I'm like, you don't know anything. She was like, I spoke to God about it. I prayed about it. And then he said I should share. I should even share a deeper one. And oh my goodness. Stephanie is a ray of sunshine. Stephanie is that person you want around you if you are down. I'm telling you, she's such a happy person. I remember she was here the day of Joyce Daniel. So the three of us met. That was the day I shared the idea of my powerhouse with them. Before Stephanie went home that day, everybody left us. So I remember very well. I wish my assistant was here. She's not here now. She was still angry. This is how she swore. Because Stephanie did not want to go home. And my assistant wanted to go home. She was just going back and forth. She wanted to meet to see her. Let's go home, this woman. It was almost 8 o'clock. And she was still going as far. Stephanie was going to farther than Aja. I'm telling you. But she stayed. Ah, no, no, no. It was such an exciting day. I remember sharing a picture that day and said, a thing was born. Stephanie coached me that day. She remembering now, it was such a great day. I remember, like that day, I was like, something has dropped. And let me tell you, it was the powerhouse. She told me how to go about it. She also asked me about my own company. The three of us, me, Stephanie, Joyce, Daniels, that's where we said we're going to have a boot camp. Well, it was such the three of us were sharing. It was such a great day. Three visionaries. We were sharing about our journeys in life, and we were at the same place. It was so exciting to have, women in the kingdom, women of faith doing great things, and we were so supportive of each other. That day, something was birthed between or amongst the three of us. So it was that day. Stephanie came to share about her surgery, about how she was such a child with low self-esteem as a child, where they even called her to win an award on Instagram. I say Instagram. I'm so used to Instagram. And they called her on the, what do you call it now, on the assembly, and she couldn't go to get her award. So she talked about how she weaned herself off of it, how she healed from that, how God gave her instructions, how she's now helping. She talked about the surgery, how she, went through it. It was such a difficult period. She was so afraid, but some of her friends talked to her and they were there for her. She was able to do it. She talked about her dad's death. I particularly know how this was such a touching subject for Stephanie because like I said, I've known her. I know how she talks a lot about her dad, her family. Stephanie comes from a very, very closely knitted family. So her dad's death was, I could have imagined. I can imagine. So she shared how that really, really got to her. She shut down. Stephanie is a very successful business coach. She said she shut down. She couldn't post. She couldn't write. She couldn't do anything. But God came through for her. God helped her, and she taught us the things that God told her to do, how in that period of darkness, she stumbled into some epiphanies and some wisdom that she's using today. She's back to herself. She also talked about, I remember now, she talked about how people hurt her, offense, in her work, how the people she had helped, and then they'll come back and say, what did you even do? Somebody that you have gone back and forth for. She talked about that, how that really hurt her so much, and she did not even know until she didn't have joy. She lost her joy, and she couldn't post, she couldn't write, which was what she did a lot. So I learned a lot. She told me about how God healed her from that. The lesson she learned from that. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was such a beautiful episode. It was such a high-pitched episode because, like I told you, Stephanie is a very exuberant person. You cannot interview Stephanie and your voice will be lie because she's such a high energy person. So even me, we were laughing, we were serious, we were deep. She would say, Lara, I love the interview a lot, So that's all of the things I learned from Stephanie. That's episode 6. Yes. So go watch it, guys, in case you've not watched it. If you have not watched it, tell me in the comment section what you learned and how that has helped you.
Every tear they wept, yet no regret. The weight was heavy, dragging low, but in the dark the light would glow. Step by step they found their way, turning night into brand new day. How they healed, how they rose from shattered dreams to where love grows.